Hi guys, what's up? It's me again. Hey man, let's just try to understand the whole Ukrainian, Russia, US from a Russian perspective, right? Anyway, if you like the content I'm presenting, hit the like, share, notification bell, subscribe, and see you guys next time. No, let's start.
They say there are two sides to every story. Consider both before you form an opinion. Easier said than done. Look at the conflict in Ukraine. One side is dominating the global narrative. The other side has been proclaimed the villain. I'm talking about NATO and Russia. And while there's a solid case against Russia here, this story too has another side. And as the tellers of the story, we must dwell on and reflect it. Vladimir Putin's aggression is being called out, and rightly so. Invading a sovereign country cannot be justified. But what led the world to the point of this invasion? Leaders in Moscow say they are the aggrieved party. They are the victims of NATO's eastward march, and they're only acting in self-defense. Here's why. Over the past 25 years, NATO has been creeping closer to the Russian border. Former Soviet states have become NATO members. This military alliance has technically absorbed the entire security belt of Moscow. Russia sees this expansion as a provocation. It hurts their security interests and won't end well for both sides, they said. The warnings were clear. NATO ignored them. Call it their myopia or arrogance. They downplayed Moscow's concerns, kept proceeding with new rounds of expansion until things blew up in Ukraine.
I remember I kept seeing that. I remember that when I was a kid. People were saying that consistently. I was like, what the heck is happening? Because when I saw the map that Spain suddenly became blue when it was expanding, I thought it was kind of weird. But then again, I was like, you are expanding. But then it expanded a lot on the eastern side. And I was like, that's weird, because I remember I was like 16, 17, and I was talking to my teacher, and he said there are so many missiles close to Russia. But when Russia wanted to put a few missiles on Cuba back in the day, remember that when there was like a big issue? Everybody was saying, no, that's too close. But at the same time, the missiles installed on that side close to Russia are even closer than the installation on Cuba. I thought it was kind of weird, but yeah, everybody thinks that USA is the good guys. But now with internet, everybody knows there's always a weird intention. Why are you doing this, bruh?
Did NATO push Ukraine into this war? Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay, and today I want to discuss why NATO cannot escape the blame for what's unfolding in Ukraine. First things first, what is NATO? The North Atlantic Treaty Organization, a security alliance between North America and Europe. It was formed after the Second World War. The goal, they say, was to protect democratic freedom. On the 4th of April 1949, the North Atlantic Treaty was signed. This treaty was simply an anti-Soviet accord aimed at countering any future aggression by the USSR. It established a new balance of power in Europe. It promised all members collective security. That's a core principle laid out in Article 5 of the NATO Treaty. It obliges member states to protect each other in case of a war. It says an armed attack against one ally will be an attack on all allies. Meaning, if one NATO nation is attacked, all NATO nations will retaliate. This allowed NATO members to pool and share their military resources. They built efficient defense capabilities, but there was more to NATO than just defense. It was an alliance of liberal countries, an engine of democratization that was supposed to promote common values and interests, also push back against the rise of communism. Naturally, Moscow saw this alliance as a threat to its interests. In response, it created the Warsaw Pact in the year 1955. It was a counterweight to NATO, the Warsaw Pact. These were the members. Their goal was the same. If one Warsaw Pact member is attacked, all others will defend it. In Russian historical memory, there were 5 reasons why such a pact was...
East Germany? Oh, the wall. Okay. It's the puzzle is clicking. Okay. Russia's big, bro.
In Russian historical memory, there were 5 reasons why such a pact was justified. 5 major invasions when the West threatened Russian interests. This includes the Polish occupation of the Kremlin in early 17th century, the Swedish invasion of Russia in early 18th century, the Napoleon invasion of the 19th century, and the 2 wars with Germany in the 20th century.
Damn, okay, so Russia ain't happy with a lot of people. I did not know this.
In each case, the very essence of the Russian state was threatened. So suspicion and fear of the West took deep roots in Russia. Moscow began perceiving NATO as a tool of American imperialism. And the assessment was not really off the mark. In 1989, the Berlin Wall collapsed.
Yeah.
In 1991, the Soviet Union disintegrated and the Iron Curtain was completely demolished. Europe's regional order hinged on one question: should Germany align itself with the US and NATO, or should it join the Russians through the Warsaw Pact? The US government, under George H.W. Bush, made an offer to Russian President Mikhail Gorbachev. It suggested if Germany became a NATO member, NATO would stop expanding, not 1 inch eastwards. No new members.
No, no. Do not tell me a promise was made on paper and you still expand it. No. That's like a prenuptial agreement. You can be more richer than me, bro.
Today, the US says it made no such promise, that no such deal was ever struck, but hundreds of memos, meeting minutes, and transcripts from US archives indicate otherwise. Nevertheless, Moscow bought the offer. It demolished the Warsaw Pact in the hope that the West would follow suit, that NATO too would be dissolved. But that never happened. NATO refused to cease operations. And to add insult to injury, they kept the door for membership open. Russia saw it as a stab in the back, and NATO kept pushing the dagger deeper. Look at this map. NATO started out with 12 founding members, but since the Soviet Union fell, it has radically expanded eastwards. In 1999, Poland, Hungary, the Czech Republic joined NATO. In 2004, there was another wave of expansion. 7 Central and Eastern European nations were made NATO members.
Hey, Lithuania, I got a friend from there. That's why they all speak German, Russian. They all speak Russian there. Of course. Now I start to understand this whole thing. The puzzle is clicking.
Some of them were former Soviet republics. In 2009, Albania and Croatia joined NATO. And the most recent entries were Montenegro and North Macedonia, both situated in Russia's backyard. It does not end there. As of 2021, NATO officially recognized 3 more aspiring members: Bosnia and Herzegovina, Georgia, and Ukraine.
Ooh.
Last we checked, NATO was also in talks with Sweden, Finland, and Serbia for membership.
Really?
So to put it simply, much of Eastern Europe, which once used to be part of the Soviet Union, has now joined NATO. And this happened despite Russia's protests and warnings. The last reasonably friendly warning from Moscow came in the year 2007. Vladimir Putin addressed the annual Munich conference.
I remember this.
Where he said, and I'm quoting, "NATO has put its frontline forces on our borders. This expansion represents a serious provocation that reduces the level of mutual trust, and we have the right to ask, against whom is this expansion intended, and what happened to the assurances our Western partners made after the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact?" These sentiments have been echoed by a host of American strategists. I'll give you a few examples. June 1997, 50 prominent foreign policy experts signed an open letter to President Bill Clinton calling America's efforts to expand NATO a policy error of historic proportions.
Ooh.
Then we have George Kennan, the father of America's containment policy during the Cold War. He too called NATO expansion a tragic mistake with no reason whatsoever. The warnings went on for decades. In 2008, William J. Burns, the US ambassador to Moscow, wrote a letter to the State Department where he said that Ukrainian entry into NATO is the brightest of all red lines for the Russian elite.
Well,
He said that even Putin's sharpest critics at home consider Ukraine's entry a direct challenge to Russian interests.
I don't know why people, you know what I find weird about this weird situation? This reminds me about bullies. Big time, bullies. Why? It's like a bully is hitting you and the mom keeps saying, they're only children. They're only children. They're just playing. They're just playing. And one day, the kid that supposedly is getting always bullied, or say his friends gets bullied, one day explodes. And everybody's like, oh my God, you're the Hulk. And I'm like, no, you can't keep pushing, breaking promises and somebody explodes. Nobody explodes because randomness. There's always a reason. Even if it's too aggressive, there's always a reason valid in their head. And if you don't handle it properly, I'm just going to be sure I'm not around the person that was bullying. No. I might even move country if this war become gangster. There's like a nuclear war plant now in Ukraine that's like get damaged. I don't want that wind to come over here. Nah, man.
It does not end there.
Oh.
This is Robert M. Gates. He was the defense secretary in the Bush and Obama administrations. He wrote in his memoir that trying to bring Georgia and Ukraine into NATO was truly overreaching. Then we have Strobe Talbot, a former Deputy Secretary of State. He described the Russian perception in a similar way, how they consider NATO as a vestige of the Cold War, and point out that if the Warsaw Pact was disbanded, why did the West not dismantle NATO?
If I have to be honest, I'm not, okay, look, I can't fact check this, but if this is true, what she is saying, it makes sense what Putin is doing. For me, it doesn't make sense because it's war. But if it's somebody that wants to protect his country, due a broken promise that US was supposed to keep, they warn them and they keep pushing forward. Oh, I can't, you don't hear this. I need to look for this information. But I know for saying this, it's going to be the, hey man, are you married to a Russian? No. But a lot of people are saying this. A lot of people are against it. They're talking about this. And they're just informing people. We don't want war. But you could have prevented it by keeping your promise though.
So several voices in the Western world had warned that Russia's protests have merit and that NATO expansion could spell serious trouble. Yet, successive American administrations paid no heed to these warnings. They kept widening NATO's security umbrella. Now, here's the thing. Trying to safeguard the sovereignty of a country is laudable indeed, but inviting a state right on Russia's border into an anti-Russian alliance is provocation.
Yeah.
Ukraine is a sovereign country and has every right to want to join the NATO. But what's in it for the NATO? Why did they push for it? Their moves completely disregard the historical baggage between NATO and Russia. Many Russians were traumatized by the disintegration of the Soviet Union. In an instant, they lost 1/3 of their territory, half of their population, and most of their military might.
Yeah.
They found themselves much weaker before Western unity.
I don't like Stalin though. I mean, this was kind of gangster, but hey, if people agree with Stalin and this happened, I can understand why a lot of them are going to be like, we are not that powerhouse that we were, but now you're pushing in our direction. And if they have the mindset of Stalin, they will consider it a threat. And you know it. But you push because you assume they won't react. Even if they had issue, even if they say Russia is a hollow state, whatever. I don't care, man. If you like Stalin and you push and you cannot talk to them correctly, saying that it's empty promise, they're not going to do anything, we're going to just put some missiles or talk to your friends right next to your house. I don't know. It seems kind of stupid from my perspective. It's just my opinion.
They felt that an unjust settlement had been imposed on them, and it was done in their moment of maximum weakness and vulnerability. So they looked at any state leaving Russia's sphere of influence as both a strategic loss and a matter of national humiliation. When we analyze why Ukraine was attacked, all of this needs to be taken into account. Does this justify the war? Absolutely not. Russia's actions are criminal, no two ways about it. But the West is not innocent either.
Well, that's messed up. I'm not saying I don't advocate for war. I don't like none of those things. But I can imagine that if I have a mindset about, hey man, I'm gonna stop, you're gonna stop. I had a gangster boss, Stalin, that did certain things that I don't agree. He was kind of aggressive, very proud for my country. If you're not doing for my country, I will shoot you. I don't know, I watched like that World War II movie that they didn't have enough guns. The soldiers had to go in the direction, pack of two, one had a gun and they had to go, the other one unarmed. If the one died with a gun, the one without the weapon had to pick up the weapon and keep going forward. And I was like, damn. And if you run back, they shoot you. That was horrible, man. I watched it in the movie and I said, damn, if that's true, Stalin, you gangster, brother. I don't want to be under you. But then again, back in the day, all men had to go to war. It wasn't a choice, especially if you're not doing an intelligent job. You have to do something for your country. But now imagine now that mindset that you destroy it to make the other side happy. The other side keeps pushing. I know, man. I don't know what the heck was happening in Ukraine. I don't know how you can see it. Even in 2014, there was like a battle. And it's still happening right now. And suddenly, for some odd reason, Russia is giving all this gas to these European countries. They are paying the bill for Russia to build an army. And then Biden is there, very passive aggressive from my point of view. And suddenly, we're gonna stop this. It's like Russia was like, look man, this is gonna go even worse because they think we're even more mellow. They actually touched the land we told them to stop, and we're gonna do something about it. But the idea that this pact was broken, I did not know it. So let me know if you guys knew about this, because if I'm misinformed, educate me, let me know what the heck's happening, because the more I read, the more I'm surprised how history works, and the more I understand where it can go. I don't like surprises. I don't like surprises anymore. Anyway, if you guys thought the video was enough educational, let me know what you think. Like, share, hit the bell notification, subscribe, and yeah, see you guys next time. Peace.
Don't get me wrong, ma cosa kita bong. Put the fire na mi blonde, kush, hash, purple, skunk, criollo, colombici, jam, jam, turloqueta, verdetta, welcome.